Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Elbows Tight Podcast. It's your host, Travis and John. John, how was that?
Man, it was so good. I wish we could have went longer, honestly.
Yeah. Today we have one of my good friends, fellow YouTuber, Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, podcaster. He is Kieren Lefevre. He does the Beyond Jiu-Jitsu podcast, Kieren Lefevre Jiu-Jitsu on YouTube. He also is part of Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu's strength conditioning and longevity course that they have together. He's also a nutritionist, personal trainer for jiu-jitsu athletes. I mean, he just holds a lot of hats, and this interview is fantastic, man. We go deep into strength conditioning training. We go deep into nutrition. What else, John?
Man, I'll tell you what, if anyone's looking for some Christmas gifts, I think he mentions a couple in here that you could buy your significant other, as far as maybe some supplements they may be looking for.
Yeah.
But he goes into all kinds of stuff, and I think he gives more than one good tip for especially brand new practitioners and white belts.
Yeah, he's a blue belt, and he recently just started jiu-jitsu. He said 2019 he started jiu-jitsu,
yeah,
right?
2020, 2019.
Yeah, and he's still fresh on it too, and with his background in personal training and stuff like that, it's just perfectly landed straight over to jiu-jitsu and continuing helping people through jiu-jitsu. So it's a great episode. Be sure you guys go follow Kieren. Everything's gonna be down in the description below. I don't really have anything else, John.
Make sure you got a pen and paper handy so you can jot down some of the great stuff he's putting out.
Yeah, it's a great episode. Make sure you guys follow us, Elbows Tight everywhere. Instagram, we hit our 1,000 followers goal, so now we're going to 1,250. Got to get to 1,250 by the end of the year. Follow us on YouTube, all that fancy stuff. So check out our Supercast, elbowstight.supercast.com. And then don't forget to share it with a friend, give us a 5-star review, all that fancy stuff. So thank you guys so much for listening and watching at home, and we'll catch you later. Peace.
Support for Elbows Tight is brought to you by MANSCAPED, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. MANSCAPED offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. MANSCAPED recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust MANSCAPED with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code ETP20 at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 8 million balls.
That's a lot of balls, Johnny. When Manscaped reached out to work with us, I instantly thought, yes, what a deal. I've been using Manscaped products for a while now, and when they mentioned helping out with the podcast, I thought it was a no-brainer. I have the Lawnmower 4.0 now, but I had the Lawnmower 3.0 and absolutely loved it. Also, most people think about Manscaped as just trimmers, but really they have ball deodorant, ball toner, the Weed Whacker, which is your favorite thing, right, John?
Yeah, I love the Weed Whacker. Look, I'm about to hit like 45 years old, so I got hair growing out of everywhere now. So it's coming out my ears. I'm like, man, where is that Weed Whacker? It's definitely my favorite.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code ETP20 at Manscaped. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code ETP20. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools to get the job done with Manscaped. Kieren, how's it going, man? Good morning from America.
Yes, I'm hailing in from the down under, Australia. It's like 6:30 here. I think the original time was scheduled a little bit earlier, but I was able to wrangle you boys into shifting it right for me, which is great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you don't want to podcast at 5 a.m. on a Monday morning? I don't understand why that would.
Look, normally I am an early riser. You know what they say, the early bird gets the worm. But yeah, not super keen, not sharp. I had to give myself enough time to have a coffee at least.
Yeah. Do you drink your coffee just black or?
Oh yeah, straight up.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how you guys.
Same.
I got I made
way.
my no. This is shaken espresso with oat milk. So,
Nice.
which does absolutely. I'm
Damn.
pretty sure oat milk is just like a bunch of gum syrups and there's
That's
maybe a grain of oat in it, but it tastes good. It doesn't mess my stomach up like milk does. So
Yeah, there's like a super lame joke. It's like, what's the worst thing about drinking almond milk? Having to get up early in the morning to milk the almonds. It's like,
Oh, for sure. Hands will cramp up quickly.
yeah, I used to drink almond milk, and then I started like reading stuff, and they're like, it's literally like a handful of almonds and a gallon of almond milk, and the rest of it's just like chemicals and stuff like that. So if you're at home and you're listening to this and you drink almond milk, I'm sorry. You probably shouldn't do that anymore. But yeah, so Hey, well, for people that don't know who you are, Kieran, let's go ahead and jump a little bit into who you are because you've been gaining a lot of notoriety lately, especially in your YouTube channel. And I mean, I think you are personally.
Oh, thank you.
You do this like recently you've been doing like the DDS update with John Dana here, and that's been getting a lot of traction. And then also you have your longevity course with Jordan Pressinger, and just give us a background of how you got into jiu-jitsu and who you are.
Yeah. So, my name's Kieren. This is my TED Talk. No. Yeah. So I started jiu-jitsu. We'll start with jiu-jitsu, and then that sort of leads into the content creation piece. I think similar stories for both of us, really,
Right.
for all of us. So I started jiu-jitsu over 2 years ago now. And I mean, I was a typical dude that's like always wanted to do some sort of martial arts when I was younger. I did a jiu-jitsu trial at a Gracie Barra Academy. But because of my work, I was in the Navy. Because of my work, I didn't want to commit. I was a tight ass. I didn't want to, pay the money, but then go to sea and not be able to actually get my money's worth. So I didn't
Right.
join. And that was like in 2017. And then time went by. I started listening to, the standard dude, started listening to Jocko Willink again, to Joe
Yeah.
Rogan. I was like, oh yeah, boys, like, this needs to happen. I'm one of those guys. I'm like, one of the guys that started jiu-jitsu because of like the likes of Jocko Willink and Joe Rogan, their influence and my previous experience with the sport, with my 2 trial classes or whatever I did. So I lived like pretty much down the road from my current academy. I just walked in the door and signed up, and then that's what started the journey for me. And at the time when I first started jiu-jitsu, I had a fitness YouTube channel. So I was still in the Navy, but part-time I decided to get my PT certs, my nutrition certs for fun, because always like to be doing something. So I would, have my little side business going on while I was full-time in the Navy, and I was creating content on YouTube because of that. And I enjoyed making YouTube videos. I had like a little fitness podcast and everything like that. So I was making content, and I decided, why not? I'll just make a YouTube video about my first day in jiu-jitsu. So I started documenting or like creating content around my jiu-jitsu journey from day one. Like I created my first video was like a week after, and it was literally like 5 things I wish I knew before my first class or something like that. And they were just bullshit things. Like half of them weren't even 5 things I wish I knew or whatever. I already knew them, but like, I was like, fuck, I gotta put together this video. But it's okay, but it's really cringe now looking back on it. But any content creator will say the same about their early content.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I just started creating content, and then slowly over time, I really enjoyed that more than like the standard fitness content. And, the fitness content creation space is so saturated. Like, unless you got a lot of Asahi and Jesus in you, like, or you have like a specific unique twist about you, it's really hard to get any notice in that space. But that's not the whole reason why I changed to jiu-jitsu soul content. But like, I just enjoyed the jiu-jitsu way more. I like fell in love with jiu-jitsu, got the bug, as they say, really got bit by the jiu-jitsu bug, and just went all in that sort of content space. And yeah, my first big breakout was when the DDS split first happened. So the DDS split first happened, and I was very fortunate. A good friend of mine, Jeremy Skinner, is really close with Craig Jones. Jeremy Skinner, if you're a ADCC fan, he recently competed in ADCC 2022 in under 66 kilo division. He was our Australian representative there. Awesome guy, and he knew Craig, so I tried to get some inside information. He didn't tell me shit. But I thought in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, I have this connection with Jeremy, I'll be able to like, and he was like, nah man, I'm not telling you anything. But regardless, no, shout out to Jeremy, he's a legend. But regardless, I made the video, and I was just first. I was like, I wasn't accurate, but I was first, so I got all the views, and that sort of really catapulted, like got me up to my first like 500 subscribers or whatever. So yeah, I've just been creating content ever since, and really leveraging, my experience and expertise in strength and conditioning and nutrition, and trying to apply that to jiu-jitsu. So that's like the long-winded answer.
No, that was great.
So did you start jiu-jitsu right around the time COVID was really starting?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So just before the lockdowns in Australia is when I started jiu-jitsu. I think it was late 2019. So I think I started, around 2019, somewhere around there, like November, I think.
Did you get a couple like in-person classes in, and then it went where you had to do like remote only?
Yeah, exactly right. So I got some, I think I actually started after our first lockdown. So it must have been 2020. Anyway, like timelines are all like blurry with the whole COVID.
Joe, those 2 years
fiasco.
have just blended together.
I'm like, has it been 2, 3, 4? I don't even know at this point.
They're just all condensed into one, hey? So I think I started around that COVID time. I got like a couple months of training in, and then we went into lockdown, and then we came back out, and then we went back in, and we were all over the place here. I'm sure you guys heard about it, but yeah.
So what made you want to start the trial class? Did you watch UFC and you're like, well, I'm big and strong and in shape, I can do this stuff, and like, what was that idea behind actually starting?
It was actually when I was in the Navy. When I did the trial, still under training technically, because my training period in the Navy was 3 years. This is a long time. And a guy that I joined with, in the same intake, his name's Dwayne. He was an ex Muay Thai fighter, and he had a fair amount of like jiu-jitsu background, maybe like, experienced white belt, maybe a blue belt. It's really hard to tell, looking back, but I think it may be around like early blue belt level, but an absolute athlete. And we used to do what we call mess rumbles, and just like, dudes will be dudes. We just wrestled, basically, like screwed around, and he would towel us up, absolutely wreck us. He could take like 2 on at once, or like 3 of the smaller guys at once. He would just manhandle us, and that really highlighted to me, hang on a minute, I don't know shit. Like, I'm a fit guy. I have that fit guy mentality. Like, I'll just see red and bodies will just drop around me. That whole like, I can hold my own, but with no substance behind it. Just thinking, I've got this. But nah, man, I don't got this. So that really highlighted a problem to me. And I was like, oh shit, and as a young guy, I was like going out and everything like that, and putting myself in positions where maybe I would need it one day. Thankfully, I never did. But I was like, okay, so I need to sort this out. And it was, always sort of just festering in the back of my mind, like, I need to get onto this because it's something that I want to do for self-defense, and, it's cool and everything. And then I got to a point in my life where it's like, it's time, let's go. Yeah.
How long did you feel like the self-defense portion of your training like was complete? You know what I mean? Like, now are you more into jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu training, or are you still kind of in that, I'm trying to get a little bit more self-defense?
No, I'm all about jiu-jitsu as like the sport now. I think the self-defense thing sort of like that box got checked, if you will, within the first couple of months. I was like, yep, sweet.
Yeah.
Now, like, I love jiu-jitsu. I competed in my first 3 months in jiu-jitsu. I was like, I want to compete. I was just like frothing. I just wanted to get after it, so to speak. And I've been competing ever since. Not that I want to be a competitor of like, I still want to give it a red hot crack, but with people like the Rotolo brothers, like, being the world #1 and in their weight division at like 19 or whatever, I'm like, oh shit, I'm a bit old for this game. But I'm still like really interested in jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu's sake.
So what was your first competition like?
Yeah, so that was an interesting experience. I was nervous as hell. Like, I had no idea what to expect. I'd done the whole like, oh, what's my game plan? I'm gonna do this, and then he's gonna do that. And I was talking to my coach, like trying to get him to suck me up. I was like calling him on the way there, like freaking out, like real nervous. And fortunately, a mate of mine who's my business partner in my videography business, he came along with me. Thank God he was there, because like, a bit of a support network. No one else from my team was there, because it was like some random competition an hour away. So he came to film it. Because got to get that content.
That's right, baby.
And, so he came to film, and I was late because I couldn't find a park. Like I was all over the place. I had to like jump the line and quickly weigh in. The guys are like, "You're on now." They're calling my name over the PA. I'm freaking out. I forgot my mouth guard, and just all this shit went down, like standard ops for white belt comp. And so I just go out in the mats, and everything went out the window. I was just grabbing onto him like, fuck, what do I do? But it was great. It was great. So I was able to, it was a pretty small division, I went through my first 3 fights in gi, and then I got to the finals and I got choked out. I think it was a ninja choke from memory. You can see it on YouTube. And I didn't tap. I just fucking went out. I was like, nah, Valhalla, baby. But it was so dumb. It was so dumb, man. You can see my leg twitching and shit. It was great. Oh man. Yeah. So that was the gi. And then I went and did no gi, and I ended up winning that. I was able to win that in the finals. So yeah, it was pretty good for the first comp.
And it sounds like you went into this already in good shape, right? Like you already had good cardio, good strength. Like
yeah,
so it
helps so much. It helps so much. Even with weight divisions, like even though you're separated by age, you're separated by belt, and you're separated by weight, there's still physical attributes within those categories still play a huge role. So I mean, I competed my first time at the under 88 kilo division in gi, and I weighed in like 81, so I could have easily cut to the weight class below, but I felt heavy compared to my opponents. I felt like I was strong, and that strength means a world of difference, particularly when there's low skill at white belt. Like strength can be the catalyst that helps you win, even if your opponent is technically superior.
Yeah, John's competed before, and that was the big thing that he said was, being against people his age and size, and was a big game changer.
I mean, it's nice, because when you're in class, you're just going up against anyone and everyone, so it's kind of nice to compete and go up against somebody that's your group, your size. It was nice.
Yeah, definitely.
So, when did you get into the strength and conditioning part of your fitness journey? Was that in the Navy also, or was it before the Navy?
No, it was well before. So I was pretty much, I started lifting weights in my last year of high school, and the first year outside of high school, I just went full gym rat, gym junkie mode. Like everything had to be protein and everything was a dumbbell, So I just went hard in the paint, just went for it. And yeah, so I was an amateur bodybuilder whilst I was in the Navy, like early days of the Navy. I was an amateur bodybuilder again for fun. I got my PT certs and nutrition certs, as I mentioned. So I was into fitness well before jiu-jitsu, like maybe close to 10 years, about 8 years of consistent, fitness and all that piece before. Yeah, and I was luckily for me, I was even into I really started nerding out a couple of years before I joined jiu-jitsu. I started nerding out on mobility as well, so that really helped a lot too. So I had that pretty good couplet of the strength and the mobility, which lends itself brilliantly to jiu-jitsu. So I was just like right place, right time, right interests, I suppose.
So now do you do physical training or personal training for people now for jiu-jitsu and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly. So I was coaching people like amateur bodybuilders, but yeah, that's pretty much full. My client base now is just full jiu-jitsu athletes or even jiu-jitsu hobbyists. That's my focus because when you're in the fitness industry, I think you generally find yourself like naturally guiding towards a specific niche anyway, and this one just makes the most sense because me compared to just a run-of-the-mill like off the street PT that you find at every sort of gym, like the difference between us is I understand jiu-jitsu, and therefore I can lend myself to coaching jiu-jitsu people more effectively than someone that has never trained, which makes sense.
Yeah, recently I feel there has been way more people coming into the jiu-jitsu space for personal training. Just a couple years ago when we first started, there was like none that was like jiu-jitsu specific and to the open market. You know what I mean? Like there was people like Chad Wesley Smith who was doing training for jiu-jitsu athletes, but it was nothing but like typically the high level competitors and stuff like that. And now he's opened it up to anyone can do it. And Chewy came out with his thing a while ago and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What is the biggest difference that you see in just general fitness and then strength and conditioning for, let's say, a sport like jiu-jitsu?
I think the biggest difference, I would say, just off the bat for most people, like we can talk about nuances, we can talk about exercise selection and intensity and everything like that, but just for the everyday run-of-the-mill person, I think it's a mentality thing. And this is because a lot of information that you'll find, unless you look for jiu-jitsu specific information, is talking about doing, like going to the gym, lifting weights to get fit. But a jiu-jitsu guy is not going to the gym to lift weights to get fit necessarily. They're not going to the gym to lift weights for aesthetics or anything like that. They're going to support their sport. They're lifting weights to support their jiu-jitsu. And I think a common mistake people run into is they bite off more than they can chew in the weights room, as in they go either too hard, they're going too often, or they're not quite sure what to do. And you need to like reframe the way you're thinking about it is no man, this needs to be supporting your jiu-jitsu. You're lifting, you're doing these exercises directly to support jiu-jitsu. So I think that is the most common issue, or the biggest hang up I find most people have. And to be transparent, I ran into that myself in the early days. I was just trying to do my standard bodybuilding style split. I was trying to consistently go to the gym and lift weights 5 days a week while simultaneously doing 8 jiu-jitsu sessions a week. It's just not sustainable, and it's counterproductive. You're going to be hurting yourself more than you're providing any benefit to your sport.
It's kind of like when we were trying to do the CrossFit right before our jiu-jitsu class. I think I managed to do it for about 2 months. And I was like, all right, something has to give, because I'd get right out of the CrossFit class, chain to the gi, jump into our class, and I was like, I'm just shot. I can't do anything.
Man.
No grip strength, no arms, no nothing.
John, that's hectic, dude.
We still have a couple guys that do it, and I'm like, man, good on you. I could not keep it up.
Yeah, we have a brown belt.
Burning the candle at both ends, eh?
Yeah, exactly. We have a guy, Billy, who's, what, 55, 56?
54, 55, somewhere around there.
54, something like that. And he does our CrossFit class before jiu-jitsu, and then comes and does jiu-jitsu and rolls 4 to 5 times in jiu-jitsu class, too. This guy is a specimen of a human being.
Billy's a savage. That's
not only that, but like incredibly flexible, does like hot yoga multiple times a week. Like, just, you're like, you know what? I hope I'm like a tenth of that man when I get to his age. Like, you know what I mean?
Man, chill. You make us look bad.
Yeah,
for sure.
When it comes to, say, if people want to start doing, strength and conditioning training at home, this was a big thing during the pandemic too, because people were buying home gyms and whatnot.
Yeah.
But if you could give a person, like, let's just say, one piece of gym equipment to general fitness for jiu-jitsu, what would it be and why?
Now, my answer to this is actually would surprise my previous self pre-jiu-jitsu, and it's going to be a kettlebell, or like some form of kettlebells. Like I was one of those dudes. I think I painted the picture pretty accurately, like a amateur bodybuilder, gym rat, protein was everything. Kettlebells were like, okay, that's for the other people. But yeah, the utility that you can get out of one kettlebell is incredible. I mean, yeah, if you prefer, you could replace that with a dumbbell or a set of dumbbells, but I mean, there's just so much you can do with just such little equipment. Like, you can really burn yourself out with a kettlebell, and it doesn't have to be that heavy. You can work with like 12 kilos or like 20 pounds or so, and you can get a sick workout with just a 20-pound kettlebell.
So what would be some workouts that people can do to help with their jiu-jitsu? Let's say body weight with the kettlebell, like, or just straight kettlebell. Like, what is like it's a very, give like a very basic workout that might benefit someone.
Yeah, so I like to work with push-pull. The reason, particularly for jiu-jitsu guys, the reason I work with push-pull legs is the 3-day split, or you can bring it into 1 day or 2 days or whatever, is you get the most bang for your buck. Instead of doing like, chest and tries, we don't really need to be doing tries. Like, we're not there to work our mirror muscles. We're there to work for strength for jiu-jitsu, right? So if we take that push-pull split mentality and apply it to a kettlebell workout, the world's your oyster. Like for example, a really good pulling exercise you can do with a kettlebell would be deadlifts, standard kettlebell deadlifts. You can do, I really like single leg or unilateral movements for jiu-jitsu because you get a lot of balance and you can work on your muscle imbalances from side to side as well. So an example of a single leg variation with a kettlebell, sticking with the pull theme, we could go with single leg deadlifts or like single leg Romanian deadlifts. Pretty much you're holding the kettlebell with one hand, you're balancing one foot, and you lever down with like a straight leg into like a deadlift sort of form. So that's what I would like with the pull. For a push exercise with kettlebells, these are a lot easier to do. They're a lot more intuitive. We could do something like a kettlebell clean and press. Here's a really good exercise for you for jiu-jitsu practitioners specifically. I really like the kettlebell bottoms up press. It's essentially where you're holding the kettlebell by the handle or the horn, as they call it, and you're pressing directly up into a shoulder press. The reason that this is so beneficial for jiu-jitsu guys is it really works your grip strength and all of your forearm and wrist strength, and you're also getting a push as well. So you're getting like a 3-in-1 almost. You're getting your grip, you're getting your forearm stability, and you're getting a shoulder press in there too.
Is that with the bell up or bell down?
Bell up. Yeah. Okay. So you're holding by the horn with the bell. The bell is up. You can progress to this with what's known as a palm press. So you're basically balancing the kettlebell in your palm, but don't use the horn to assist you. And once you progress enough with, say for example, you only have like a 20-pound kettlebell and you can't do a bottoms up press yet, start with a palm press. If you can't do a palm press, then start with like a regular kettlebell shoulder press and then progress your way through it. So those are just two examples. And then for legs, I mean, you can do squats, you can do goblet squats, anything like lunges, like you can do just about anything with a kettlebell. So anything you could think of that you can do with a barbell or a dumbbell, you can do with a kettlebell.
When it comes to injuries, do you, for your clients, if they get injured during jiu-jitsu, how do you work around that? Do you tell them to continue to go to jiu-jitsu and just go light, or lighten up on the workouts, or do you kind of prescribe a workout that helps rebuild around that injury?
Yeah, I'm going to do the whole cop-out answer. It depends. It depends on the injury. And ironically, this is a very fortuitous question because I'm injured at the moment. I sprained my ankle at jiu-jitsu doing something stupid. So, classic.
What?
So, yeah. Oh, funny that. So I've got a sprained ankle at the moment, and I'll just talk about what I'm prescribed for myself and what I'm doing. And this is pretty much what I would give to any of my athletes as well. Is at the moment sprained ankle, so I can't. I've just gotten back to drilling, so even jiu-jitsu, showing up for just showing up's sake, that was pretty much off the table of actually doing anything at jiu-jitsu for me. So the last 2 weeks I've been working on cardio and strength and conditioning. So getting in the gym, still getting the reps in, using this as an opportunity to use it as almost like a building phase. If we're thinking about strength and conditioning phases, this is like a building phase or a hypertrophy phase, if you will. I'm looking to build strength. I'm looking to build muscle, and make sure I'm at least maintaining cardio. So that is pretty much the focus, because I can pretty much do anything except because of the dynamic nature that you need your ankles to go through in jiu-jitsu. I can't really drill and I can't roll, obviously. So depending on the injury, depending on the athlete, depending on where their headspace is at, I would get them in the gym doing what they can do and using it as an opportunity to work on their physical deficiencies or physical weaknesses. Say, for example, they have an issue with grip strength. Okay, let's crack that nut. Let's work on grip strength. I'll get them doing the bottoms up press. I'll get them doing farmer's carries, dead man hangs, like the bar hangs, and really use it as an opportunity to pick 1 or 2 areas and let's hammer these so that when you come back, not only are you good to go, but you come back stronger in some areas. And yeah, maintaining cardio is a big one, because everyone knows that, like, you know, everyone's seen that guy that goes on holiday for like 3 months, or yes, John, I know John, that you just came back recently. Yeah, the gas tank, man. The gas tank is
wind
dead,
bellows.
Right? Yeah. So I think focusing in on maintaining your cardio where you can. And if you can't do any cardio, if you have like a catastrophic injury, like say you just had knee surgery and you can't do cardio, you can actually do sauna. Sauna will maintain your cardio to a certain extent. Yeah, yeah. Obviously, the more you do, the better it's going to be. But sauna is a really good option if you're like, okay, that's all well and good, man, but both my knees are like collapsed. Jump in the sauna, and it will be much, much better than doing nothing.
Everyone, this episode is brought to you by Manscaped. This holiday season, I'll be giving thanks to our friends over at Manscaped. Everyone loves turkey and stuffing, but you'll be looking like dessert with the help of Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming have blessed you with the ultimate Thanksgiving dinner topping. Tell your in-laws about your new cutting-edge ball trimmer and gift yourself or the man in your life the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Trim your pumpkins by going to manscaped.com and use code ETP20 for free shipping and 20% off.
Recently, John and I have received the shampoo, conditioner, and deodorant. And I'm not lying to you, I probably won't ever use any other shampoo and conditioner and deodorant. John, how do you like it?
Man, I 100% love it. And matter of fact, the deodorant is probably my favorite. It's also aluminum free, which is something I look for in all my deodorants. Yep. Not only do I like it, but my wife loves it.
Yeah. And what's nice about the shampoo and conditioner and deodorant, it has that Manscaped smell, but it's not super overpowering. The deodorant, I can't talk highly enough about the deodorant. Just something about it. I feel great. It goes on thin, aluminum free.
As far as the materials they used for the shampoo and the conditioner, it's not a cheap bottle.
It's metal.
It is nice. I was thoroughly impressed.
Get 20% off and free shipping with code ETP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using code ETP20. Be thankful this holiday season for the best gift of all from Manscaped. Your balls will thank you. Thank you, Manscaped, for sponsoring this episode.
I feel like you'd have a really good answer for this question.
Okay.
So you know when you got the jiu-jitsu bug, right, and you're trying to get all your friends into it?
Yeah.
What do you tell them when they go, I want to get into it, but I want to get in shape first?
Oh, that's a great question.
Now this, yeah, funny that. John, my opinion when I first started jiu-jitsu was wrong. And I have a video on this exact question, and my opinion on that video, I'm going to do an update to it. So basically, my opinion used to be, man, you got to get fit to do jiu-jitsu. You got to I used like a weird military analogy as well. I was like, in the military, we've got a saying, it's get fit to fight, don't fight to get fit, or something like that. And man, I look at it now and I'm like, bro, you got no fucking idea what you're talking about. Like, you're an asshole. Like dude. Yeah, I got to do an update to that. I'm going to write that down after this. Yeah. So basically, my opinion used to be you got to get fit to do jiu-jitsu. But now I realize that is just narrow-minded. It's silly. I see jiu-jitsu not only as a way of life, but, a sport, a fitness modality. And, I congratulate people that walk into the gym and like, hey, I've chosen this as my avenue to get fit. I think that is absolutely awesome. I encourage it. I support it. I think it's excellent. So to people that say that, I want to get fit first, well, when's that going to be? Give me a date. Give me a timeline. If that is really how you feel and that's what you want to do, let's set a date. Let's book in for your trial in 3 months and get fit to that date. Like if that's how they want to approach it. But I wouldn't really suggest that. I would say get involved, get in there. It will help you along your fitness journey. And I think that not only will it help you to get fit, but it may even motivate you to want to get fit because you're like, fuck, I'm gassed out after one round. I need to sort this out. So it can work as the opposite, if you know what I mean. So that's my new, updated, and more considered approach in response to that question. Yeah.
It's something that Chad Wesley Smith said is you can do all the strength and conditioning that you want, but nothing replaces an athlete's sport. There's sport-specific athleticism that just can't be replaced. No matter how fit you get, right? You need to do your sport in order to get better at the sport. Like you mentioned, if you gas out after an hour or after one roll, like you should probably roll more, or maybe you should start doing something outside of jiu-jitsu to help build that jiu-jitsu cardio. But like I always mention, I was in great shape when we first started. And, I was like the strongest I ever been. I had like 6-pack Travis, you know what I'm saying, ripped. First class, I was like, I would freaking die. You know what I mean? Like 3 minutes in, a one-stripe white belt that has been training for 6 months, that's like half my size, was just whooping my tail. Like, it doesn't matter how fit you are. There's still the magic of jiu-jitsu is always going to be more superior than any amount of fitness that you have, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's even backed by science. You guys may have heard of this probably, but just for the listeners, is a concept known as the SAID principle, or the specific adaptation to imposed demands, SAID, and that talks volumes here. So basically, the principle is that the more you do something, the better you're going to get, because your body specifically adapts to whatever demands you're imposing, and in this case, it's jiu-jitsu. Not to say that conditioning can't help. Like hit training or even improving your cardio base is always going to help, but I agree. And again, this is another one of those mindset pieces that I sometimes have to help people with. If you're only training jiu-jitsu, 2 or 3 times a week, and that's the maximum that you can get to jiu-jitsu, that's fine. But if then you're having a conversation with yourself, hey, I want to get into the gym as well, should I eliminate one of those jiu-jitsu sessions? I'd be like, no, man, you shouldn't. Like, the whole point is to train jiu-jitsu. The whole point of you being a jiu-jitsu enthusiast, a hobbyist, a jiu-jitsu player, is to get on the mats and roll. And that's what, at the end of the day, that's what we all want to do. That's the most fun. So I wouldn't eliminate a jiu-jitsu session for a strength and conditioning session if already you're limited in the jiu-jitsu realm, if you will. Like, once you get up to like 4+ sessions, then we can have a conversation and figure out, your schedule. But if you can only train twice a week, don't eliminate one just to lift some weights because you think that you need to.
So let's go switch gears a little bit into some of the nutrition behind jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of things out there like keto, low carb, raw, carnivore, or whatever. What do you recommend for your clients in the nutrition aspect for jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, so I'm an ISSN sports nutrition specialist. So all my recommendations come from the ISSN, and they've done a lot of compiling of research, and their own research, but compiling of research studies when it comes to sports. So depending on what sport you're into depends on your nutrition, the most optimal nutritional modality. And I even had a comment on one of my nutrition videos like, this is all marketing, it's all bullshit, like there is no such thing as jiu-jitsu nutrition, there's just nutrition. It's like, well, yeah, you're right in a way, but you're also very, very wrong. And the way that you're wrong is that depending on your sport depends on how you're going to fuel your body. You're not going to expect that an endurance athlete is going to be having the same nutrition plan as a strongman. And not only like in terms of the calories, but the macronutrient makeup, the food, the timing, everything, it can be completely different. Like you could have 2 athletes with a similar nutrition modality in different sports, but the chances are they're similar sports, right? So in terms of jiu-jitsu, it's a very unique one because on one hand, we have the requirement of almost like an endurance sport because there's a lot of cardio endurance. And on the other hand, we have the requirement of strength and explosiveness because there's a lot of strength and explosiveness. So MMA and jiu-jitsu, they fall in similar categories of combat sports, and they're very dynamic between the two. So the recommendation there is to have carbohydrates, is to predominantly have your nutrition plan made up of carbohydrates with sufficient amount of protein and sufficient amount of fats as well. The carbohydrate makeup is going to be in the neighborhood of 50 to 70% of your total calorie intake. And then we can talk about like how much protein to take in and fats as well. But we start with carbohydrates essentially. Well, not start with carbohydrates, but that's like the main driver behind the nutrition plan, if you will.
So is that caloric makeup for someone that is training in a surplus, in a maintenance, or a deficit? Do you change that percentage depending on what their goal is? Yeah,
absolutely I do. So now I said we start with carbohydrate. That was I misspoke. We actually start with protein. And we calculate out someone's I was like, yes. Oh, John was excited. No, we start with protein. We calculate out the protein for the individual, and that's based on your weight. And not only your weight, but also your fat percentage, if we're being very specific. And then once we have your protein, then we calculate out your fats. And once we have those two numbers, say, for example, it turns out to be like, 40% of your total calories, then the rest is made up of carbohydrates. And that's where like someone like me can really help if it gets really complicated with, as you mentioned, like working in a surplus, working in a deficit, working on maintenance, then we can tweak that to make sure that your carbs are sufficient. We're not sacrificing too much protein or fats. So it's not really a one size fits all as such. But there are certain principles and guidelines that you can follow to quickly and easily calculate your own macronutrients without being too specific and too, over the top. Like at the end of the day, we're talking, most people here, hobbyists, when you're looking at nutrition for jiu-jitsu, you're looking to make yourself feel better, make yourself, perform better. You're not really looking to be the 1% of the 1% and be a top athlete. And even if you are, like, these principles will still help. So that's pretty much what I'm considering. Now, when we're looking at cutting and working in a surplus specifically, the thing that's going to change is predominantly the carbohydrates and the fats. I'm really hesitant to mess with an athlete's protein profile, because even if you are cutting, the research shows that higher protein is most of the time the way to go, and you're going to get the most benefit out of your cut if you keep your protein high. And that's even been shown in dieting studies where they pretty much cut the person's calories to nothing. Like you're eating to survive at that point, and it's all about losing weight. I'm talking like around 800 calories for a full-grown adult. And in those studies, that they have the most benefit when the most of those 800 calories is made up of protein.
So, and to comment on that too, I watched a video one time, and the guy was talking about how food selection in your caloric intake is also very important, because you can have 500 calories of almonds, right? Yeah. And then you can have 500 calories of protein, and which one do you think is going to fill you up more, right? The protein typically is the slower burning. It's going to fill you up more, that, or, high fiber foods and stuff like that. But, taking into consideration how you're taking in those protein, carbs, and fats is also something you should think about too, because eating a bunch of Twinkies to get your carbohydrates, that's all great and dandy, but at the end of the day, you're gonna be like, I'm still hungry, man.
yeah. Well, Kieren said carbs. Let's go, baby. Yeah,
sign me up.
It fits my macros, right?
Way better about all that rice.
So when it comes to like an athlete cutting weight, we see it all the time. People, especially our friends. One of our friends competed as a white belt, and he cut weight to drop down to the next bracket. And he did like a distilled water hydro cut the night before, dropped 3-4 kilos overnight. And then when he came to competition day, he made weight, but he even admits, he's like, I didn't even have enough time to re-energize my body, because the thing about, like, I did Olympic weightlifting for a while, and it was, you weighed in about an hour before you had to lift, right? So your weight cut had to be very, very rigid, because you needed enough time to replenish your body in electrolytes and carbohydrates, stuff like that, in order for you to perform on the platform. Well, the same thing with jiu-jitsu, right? How would you recommend someone cutting weight to where they're not hindering their performance on the mat?
Yeah, this is an excellent question. And this is predominantly, most of the people that come to me, particularly for one-on-one coaching, this is the question that we address. This is the problem that we solve. So I don't like water cutting. I don't like I don't like water cutting, and I don't like weight cutting with water. And I think it's particularly nowadays with the influence of the UFC, a lot of people see, everyone weight cuts, so that's what I need to do. I do a combat sport. They do a combat sport. I need a weight cut with water. So that I see that really creeping into our sport. I know they do it in wrestling. So it can work. So I want to be controversial, but I want to like walk back at the same time. Like, I don't like it, but it can work. Okay.
Right.
But what you find, as you pointed out, Travis, is, and even your teammates, particularly at white belt, like, yeah, you make the weight, you got to cut like 3 pounds or 3 kilos or whatever, and then you rock up and you're gassed. You got nothing in the tank. I've weighed in literally before I've stepped on the mats before. Particularly during COVID, they were super stringent and they were like, no, you can't weigh in an hour before. You got to weigh in and go. So what if you're in that situation? What if you're super dehydrated? You've just come off a really shit water cut. You've had to cut like a stupid amount of weight, and then you're literally stepping on the scale and then stepping on the mat. Good luck. Like it's going to be tough. It's tough even when you don't cut weight. So I like to cut my athletes well and truly in advance. I want them on weight 3 days before. And to achieve that, we cut their fats. Like as in not their fat macros. We reduce their body fat. That's what I'm cutting. Now, the best optimal zone for most combat athletes in terms of body fat percentage is somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 15%. So that is a huge bracket to work with. 15%, we're talking about more heavyweights. So for, we'll just take the average run-of-the-mill jiu-jitsu person. If your body fat percentage is somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 12%, you're pretty much in the Goldilocks zone. If you're greater than that and you're looking to cut to the lower bracket, you should be cutting your body fat percentage first. And then if we need to, we can address a water cut. So I have seen jiu-jitsu athletes, some of my jiu-jitsu athletes do a water cut because all of a sudden they wanted to go to a competition that was outside of their schedule. So that was the only way to achieve it. And I mean, you have to ask them if it was worth it. But yeah, for me, I like to cut my athletes in advance because again, I'm not really working with people that are about to, I don't know, step on ADCC stage or anything like that. Well, technically the ADCC trials, but still, like, I don't know. I get really funny about water cuts in jiu-jitsu. I think there's better ways to do it. Like there's just better ways to do it.
When I watched our friends do that, because they all did, and it seems like a common trend when I watch people that are going to compete, they always pick the lower weight class. That's where they want to be. So when I saw that, I was like, well, I'm just going to pick the higher weight class. Then I didn't have to cut anything, and I felt like it was way less stress. But I don't know. It seems like everyone goes under instead of higher. Interesting.
Yeah. So I competed 88 in 88 kilos in gi, and my last competition, I weighed in with the gi on at 80 kilos. So I was in the weight class below. Like I could have easily have just cut like half a kilo and been in the weight class below, because the weight class below is 79.8 or something like that. So I was pretty much the weight class below. But you're exactly right. It was no stress. I didn't have to cut. And it's going to sound weird, but I feel stronger in the higher weight class. I feel stronger when I'm replenished. I can, if anything, I'm trying to eat more leading into competition, not less. So I was good to go. My glycogen stores were through the roof. My hydration was good to go. I didn't have to worry about it. I didn't have to go do a nervous poo because I'm good to go on weight. Like I'm sorted, man. So, stepping on the mats and I felt strong. So, I mean, if I was to compete at the elite level, like if I was going to Worlds, I probably would have to, fill up into my bracket or maybe cut down because I'm in that awkward in between. But yeah, particularly if you're a white belt, go the weight above. Like it's not going to matter. It really, really isn't going to matter. Like particularly if you are doing your strength and conditioning, everyone's going to feel light to you. It's not going to be the end of the world.
So what about recovery? What do you recommend for people post jiu-jitsu, post competition for recovery? Do you recommend them taking like a whey protein with like creatine, or just replenish with macronutrients and clean food and stuff like that? What do you recommend?
So we touched on a couple of things. I'll answer your main question and then I want to circle back to the supplements because I think that's important as well. So in terms of like you just finished your first comp, it was a full day. You did maybe like 5 or 6 different matches or whatever, and you're feeling pretty gassed. I would be focusing in on restoring your glycogen stores. So you've just burnt yourself out. Think about like someone that's just run a marathon. Like you're going to feel absolutely gassed. You're going to have no energy in the tank. It's the same with jiu-jitsu. So we need to get your carbohydrates in. So I'd pretty much your first meal, like you can go eat whatever you want, even like go have burgers or your cheat meal. But if you're doing things like, by the book, I would say I would want to replenish you with some simple carbohydrates. The form of simple carbohydrates, it could be liquid calories is really good. So just to get that initial, calorie dump, if you will. So a combination between simple carbs and protein would be good to go. You throw some electrolytes in there as well to restore your hydrogen status. And then I'd want a substantial meal with more complex carbohydrates. So like, I don't know, you can have pretty much anything, but complex carbohydrates are things like starches, like rice, potatoes, even like vegetables, yams, things like that. I would want to get in a full complete meal. So we're looking at carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. But the initial like carb replenishment is the goal for recovery, and to couple that with some protein, and you're good to go.
So what about the supplements?
Yeah, so you mentioned creatine. I actually recommend creatine. The only supplement that I like officially recommend is creatine. And I think the research on creatine is it's undeniable. It is the most well-researched supplement on the market, hands down, by far. And in terms of sport, it's even more well-researched. There is so much backing behind creatine that there's a very small subset of the population that are known as creatine non-responders, as in they're not going to respond to creatine. And for some reason, that subset of group of people, that mindset has filtered into the general population. So people think that, most people are creatine non-responders, or that it doesn't work, or it's like a waste of money. Or I've heard things like it causes kidney problems, or all sorts of crazy shit. Like, none of that is true. Creatine is super safe. It's even safe for children. That's not an official recommendation, I'm just saying. So yeah, I recommend creatine for jiu-jitsu athletes. How do you take creatine, you ask? I would take it 5 grams a day is fine for most people. Have it wherever you can get it. Just make it consistent. But if you really want to nerd out, I think the best way that it's absorbed is in warm water with carbohydrates. If you really like, but we're talking about the 1%ers here. It doesn't really matter.
So does it matter what kind of creatine? Because there's different like kinds out there. Is it creatine monohydrate, or like what type of creatine?
Yeah, there's so many different types of creatine. There's like monohydrate, micronized creatine, there's creatine esters, like the list goes on. Monohydrate is good to go. It is the one that has been researched. All the other types of creatine have very, very little research in comparison to monohydrate. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of studies here. All the other types of creatine that you see, you'll also notice that they're more expensive. The reason for that is it's marketing. So you don't need to worry about creatine, micronized creatine or whatever, or even creatine esters. None of them are going to be worth the money, so to speak. So creatine is so cheap. Just go with creatine monohydrate. My personal preference in creatine monohydrate is a type of creatine monohydrate known as Creapure. It's Creapure, Creapure, and it's made out of Germany, and it's the purest creatine in the world. But it's still cheap. It's great. It's just what I go with. So yeah, and it's so many different brands sell Creapure. So Creapure isn't like the brand that sells it. It's the type of creatine in the different brands.
So what about protein powder supplement? Because there's a bunch of different out there. Does it really matter? Because we've always heard like you don't want to do creatine concentrate or a protein concentrate. You want to, or whey concentrate. You want to do hydrolyzed whey isolate, or you want to do whey isolate, or like is there really any difference between them, or is it just the fact that you're doing it that matters?
Look, there is a difference. And I see where the people that are giving you this advice are coming from. So there's so much different types of creatine, but we'll break it down into 4 main categories for protein. Protein supplements. There's 4 main categories. We have like our plant-based proteins, and we'll just set them aside for now. So that's one. The second is, you already mentioned it, is whey protein concentrate, or WPC. Next is whey protein isolate, or WPI as it's known. And then you have casein. So you can then branch them down into 2 categories there. So you can have WPI and WPC. They're most closely related. And then you have casein. There is a big difference between casein and the whey variants, because casein is made up of, so the way they make protein powders is from a byproduct of dairy products, a byproduct of milk. 60% of the byproduct of when you produce milk is a protein known as casein. So that's a protein molecule. And then 40% is from the protein molecule whey. It's a different type of molecule. Whey is less complex in its structure than casein. That's why casein is known as the slow release protein, because it's a more complex molecule. It takes longer for your body to digest and break down with your digestive enzymes. So that is why that protein gets the term slow release. Now, let's talk about whey protein isolate and whey protein concentrate, which is the crux of your question. So whey protein, the way they make whey protein isolate is it's a double chemically filtered protein. It's kind of like I'm prepared for this question. It's a double chemically filtered whey protein. So basically what they do is they put that molecule, that whey, the whey protein through a double chemically filtered process, and what they're filtering out is all of the carbohydrates and all of the fats. And what they're trying to do is pretty much have a pure protein product. And then you have different variations of WPI, but that's pretty much all we're talking about is a very concentrated protein-based product. WPC, on the other hand, hasn't gone through the same amount of rigor, the same amount of filtration, which is why you'll find if you have a look at the label, you'll see more carbohydrates and more fats per serving. And it's because it hasn't gone through the same amount of filtration. And with that filtration comes a higher cost. So WPI is generally more expensive, but it's more expensive because it's been treated more, it's more expensive to produce, and it is more concentrated, which is ironic because it's called isolate. But it's more isolated then. Now, which one should you have? Finally, we're there. So it depends on your budget. If you can afford it, WPI is my recommendation. If you don't want to invest that much into a protein supplement, that's perfectly fine. Just go with the WPC. Now, the nutritionist in me hates the fact that these are, supplements, if you will, because at the end of the day, it's a food source. It's food. Just think of having a protein shake as consuming a type of food, because that's what it is. So shit answer, but I'd go with WPI over WPC if you can, but don't sweat the small stuff. Don't worry about it. Just if you want to take a protein supplement, if it makes you feel better and it helps you get the nutrients in when you most need them, as in that window, if you will, 20 minutes after your jiu-jitsu sessions, then just go with whatever you've got.
No, that was a great answer. I mean, I learned something there.
I'm working on my shopping list while he's talking about it.
Yeah, I'm like taking notes. I'm like, all right, I don't know anything about whey protein. Got it? No, hey, Kieren, I know you're stretched on time, man, and we've been going for about as long as we can. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, man. I know you got a meeting after this. You're a busy man with a business and clients and everything like that. So thank you for squeezing us in such early in the morning over there. If people want to check you out and maybe even get some coaching from you, because you sound like you know your stuff, where can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram. It's Kieren_Lefevre. On YouTube, Kieren Lefevre Jiu-Jitsu. If you just type in Kieren Jiu-Jitsu, I'm the first thing that pops up. And I also have a BJJ Performance and Longevity Course out with Jordan. I think we mentioned my partnership with Jordan in the outset of the episode. So you can check that out as well. It's on all over Jordan's channels, all over mine. So that's where I've concentrated most of the content there.
And that's Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu, right? Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu on YouTube.
Yeah, Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu, and the same on Instagram, I think. So yeah, we're pretty much the same across all platforms. So to find me, Kieren Lefevre, find Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu, and that's where you find us.
What is real quick? Give us the people at home that don't know anything about this longevity course. What does it cover, and then where can they find it also?
Yeah, so the BJJ Performance and Longevity Course is essentially 4 pillars or 4 modules, if you will. First is taught by Jordan, and it's mat safety. And the other 3 are taught by myself, and it covers mobility, strength and conditioning, and nutrition. So it's pretty much, we tried to make it like the ultimate complete resource for all your longevity, is in being on the mats as long as you possibly can. And the performance, when you're there, improve your performance, just operate at the highest level that you as an individual are capable of. So that's what the whole course is geared towards. You can find that all the links to that course are in both my link trees, my bios, and Jordan's at Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu. And if you want to find it directly, if you just Google BJJ Performance and Longevity, you'll find that.
Perfect. John, you got anything else?
No, man, thank you. That was great.
Oh, we can't stop this interview without Kieren, if you could give one piece of advice to a brand new white belt, what would it be?
I'd say be consistent. I know this has been said before, but it's just so like I was thinking about this. It's consistency. Like even though it's a cop out, just keep showing up, and everything else will fall into place. If you just keep showing up and keep having a good time while doing it, the whole jiu-jitsu journey will path itself, if you will. So that is, yeah, you can't get past the classic, but it's a classic for a reason because it's true.
You can't get better at jiu-jitsu if you never go to jiu-jitsu, right?
Exactly.
That's true.
Exactly.
All right, Kieren. Hey, man, thank you so much for coming on the show today, man. People out there, you should watch out because Kieren and I are working on some stuff in the background also together. We're trying to do some content together, so I'll let you guys know when all that's coming out. Unfortunately, we're both very busy people, so we don't get to do this full time.
Probably 2 years. I don't know, something like that. Maybe when we're black belts, we'll collab.
Yeah, there we go. So, John, you got anything else?
No, thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching and listening at home. Remember, no oil checks here.
Bruce.
All right, guys. Peace.